Let me introduce you to Hambiel, and he's the luckiest guy on earth. He just got kicked out of his apartment for watching too much cultured anime, but he's about to luck himself into the craziest share house ever. And as he goes through a roommate interview, our boy doesn't know his life is about to change forever thanks to two girls. Anyways, stuck in an interview, it looks like Hambiel has already met his match as he tries his best not to stare at the twin pyramids of Giza right in front of him. Now I can't blame him because you aren't a man if your pepperoni pizza crust does not rise up when you meet someone attractive to you. So bro looks down in shame after getting caught in 4K. But to Hambiel's surprise, as soon as he got caught in 4K, he didn't fail the interview. Instead, he suddenly hears that he got accepted to be the third and final roommate. As such, bro begins moving in on the same day, unable to believe he was able to snag an amazing area to live in whilst having to pay the cheapest rent ever. So the first thing he does is to bring a box of tissues as it's time he meets the cultured men in the comments section again. Nevertheless, shortly after dropping his sussy baka box into his room, he goes to grab more of his boxes at his old place, but he accidentally ganks a girl inside, causing him to be confused as he's not familiar with the concept of the opposite gender. However, the girl starts acting like she's seen a ghost, where she outright refuses to speak to Hambiel or even answer any of his questions, looking like she just got ganked by the sussy Fire Nation. Now unsure of what to do in the presence of Hambiel, the girl randomly takes a huge breath and begins channeling her screaming breathing technique to full power, yelling for him to please take anything except her life. She then falls to the ground looking like she's about to pass out from total fear whilst pointing at our boy and his box cutter, telling him that he can take any of her belongings since it's not even her anyways. Clearly, it's a major misunderstanding as this girl probably doesn't know he's the new roommate, but I don't blame her since Hambiel do be looking like a major weeb. Nonetheless, as he tries to calm down the girl by explaining that he's the new tenant to the place, bro starts feeling a menacing aura get closer and closer to him. But upon turning around, it was too late. Bro then gets instantly hit by flying sussy jutsu, sending him straight to the ground with perfect precision, only for him to slowly realize that he just got clapped by another girl with invisible clothes on who's busy showing off some large yet pointy ice cream cones. One blink later, it's revealed that the powerful kick came from a red head, still with invisible clothes on, busy wanting to end Hambiel's life now as she claims that thieves are never welcome in any kind of neighborhood, especially one full of girls only. Luckily, after Hambiel was forced to tap out a couple more times against WWE moves from the Red Head, the owner called in to check if the new tenant came by today, so everything was quickly resolved. Although our boy's first impression was not the best, at least he learned that the first girl's name was Eunso. She's 20 years old and is a university student, but throughout most of the time here, bro has never seen her leave the house, let alone her own room. Meanwhile, the redhead girl Jisoo is even more troublesome of the two as she's quite literally the opposite of Eunso, always straightforward and direct whilst having the demeanor of a real Chad, unlike our boy. Regardless, over the span of the next few weeks, the owner Dayan kept bugging and threatening Hambiel to get along really well with the two girls and gave him no reason as to exactly why he just can't be average with them, causing my sussy senses to begin tingling. With me now transforming into the sussy version of Spider-Man, I watched as Jisoo suddenly barged into Hambiel's room one day as he was busy using his tissues to clean up, and after acting like he was not up to no good, Jisoo locked eye contact with him and instantly demanded for him to go out with her right at this moment. She then slaps down a bunch of cash in front of our boy, informing him that she's paying for his services as a boyfriend, causing Hambiel to pinch himself to make sure he's actually still living in reality. However, bro is kind of dumb and refuses to trust in his banana tree slowly growing down below. Instead, he decides to refuse $1 million as he's probably thinking this is just a prank bro. But after getting called out for being a brokey, our boy actually starts thinking about taking the offer as it's basically a win-win situation, where he might even be lucky enough to do some rice cake smashing for the first time whilst getting paid money to buy unlimited Robux. After contemplating harder than a girl on her time of the month, bro ends up deciding to hand over the fat stacks of money back to Jisoo, which to be fair does not even come close to looking like $1 million, claiming that he doesn't trust her enough to accept the offer if she won't explain why she needs to rent a boyfriend. Upon realizing that loser Hambiel would actually chat up for once, she ends up spilling the beans, where we discover that she works at a construction site and she needs a fake boyfriend just to stop her old coworkers from always setting her up with random guys. And when she finally had enough to tell everyone she had a boyfriend, all her coworkers just laughed at her as they know how she is with the boys, since she's usually even more alpha than them and scares them away. Now that our boy knows the true reason she needs a rental boyfriend, he starts feeling bad for her for the first time ever, as he's now the only person she can turn to, knowing full well all her other friends will just laugh at her if they found out since they ain't real ones. Regardless, after accepting the money, bro learns that Jisoo has already planned out every detail of her fake boyfriend. where he even needs to act cute and sweet every time he meets her. But if he does anything wrong, then he better watch his back. However, as the two continue to discuss their plan to fool a bunch of grandmas and grandpas at work, Bro finally listens to the blood rushing down below and starts talking about how they should kiss to make their plan more believable. Although our boy's plan's actually pretty big brain, Jisoo almost instinctively smacks Hanbil in the face at the revolting thought of sharing her first Hershey with a weeb, but she realizes he's right, so they compromise by doing it on the cheek instead. Fast forward the next day, their plan finally sprung into action as Hanbil appeared at the end of Jisoo's shift, trying to look the best he can to pass as a normal person, rather than some of y'all that stay inside all day to grind ranked or blocks fruits. Regardless, after ganking Jisoo acting all sweet and cute like her ideal boyfriend, he does the popping swing to avoid all the glaring coming from the boomers, allowing him to gap close the distance between him and Jisoo to allow their acting to blossom. However, old man Saitama and the other coworkers have been watching too much K-dramas this year, so they were quick to notice Jisoo's stiff acting, making them instantly suspicious of the two due to Jisoo's robotic hug and the way she acted around her so-called man. But to alleviate their suspicions of the fake couple, Bro went in for the kiss on the cheek as requested. But for some reason, Jisoo went for it too, so the two worlds collided as if destiny was a thing, catching both of them by surprise. After realizing what happened, both Jisoo and Hanbil open their eyes in shock of the accident, but since they are too far in, there is no escaping this moment now, so instead, Jisoo doubled down and went try hard mode to sell their affection, since she knows chocolate ice cream is better than vanilla. Nevertheless, after a minute of swapping air like a master mouth breather that can dive over 69 feet, the two disconnect upon hearing all the coworkers clap and cheer for the two, so it's safe to say they won the crowd over, but our boy looks like he just won the lottery. Anyways, the two leave together and head home after a successful outing, but upon leaving line of sight of her workplace, Jisoo quickly returned to her normal self and swiftly tries to be up Hanbil, where she angrily asks why the heck he had to tilt his head so awkwardly, placing the blame on our boy for the accident. Surprisingly, as he starts getting berated for the accidental sussy air-to-air attack, Hanbil defends himself and yells back at Jisoo, telling her to shut up, claiming that it's not even his fault when she's the one that messed up, and he even did his part to make everything worth it for the amount of money she paid him. Unfortunately, after properly defending himself, Bro discovered why Jisoo was so mad they accidentally air-battled, and it's because he found out that was her first ever kiss, and she was planning to save it for the special person at a special time. Now, I get it, those are always special, but can you take a look at our boy? There's literally zero chance this dude has ever gotten his first either, so it's not like she's the only one that's stuck on this boat, so she needs to be more considerate. Nevertheless, unable to figure out what to do in this situation, and since he's never seen a girl cry because of him before, our boy just closes his eyes and tells Jisoo to slap or punch him anywhere she wants if it will help make her feel better. The simp even tells her that after they get home and get everything sorted out, then he will return all the money she gave him to make it fair for both parties. But just as Bro is expecting to get smacked into another dimension, he waits for a second, but no pain appears, causing him to open one eye to see what's going on, only for him to witness Jisoo's eyes disappearing whilst she grabs hold onto him, making my sussy alarm to ring. Soon enough, Hanbil finds himself teleported to a nearby bar, where Jisoo is nice enough to hand him unlimited free drinks left and right, ordering him to drink enough so he forgets about everything that transpired today. Sure enough, he agrees to the gentleman's agreement, so the two begin chugging drinks one after the other, but the more our boy continues on, the more he realizes that Jisoo isn't half bad herself, so he keeps taking a peek at his roommate while she feels down bad about what happened today. Eventually, Jisoo gets to the point where she begins apologizing for all her actions, saying how she knows she shouldn't have freaked out on him, and at the end of the day, our boy was able to do the job she asked him to do, and now all the boomers will stop bothering her. Regardless, with the awkward air between the two now disappearing thanks to a couple of drinks each, they start bonding after talking about their personal lives, where Jisoo learns that it was his first as well. Turns out, the two were foreshadowing something else more sussy, as it's revealed they both teleported back to their place without either having a clue how, and upon waking up the next morning, they both realized they both made another major mistake. Now that both armors on each other are invisible, Jisoo quickly shifts into her usual "I will destroy you" mode, where she forcibly gets on top to try and destroy Hanbil with her bare hands, as she's busy thinking this was all our boy's fault. Luckily, she stops right before her fist makes direct impact, allowing for Hanbil to not get reincarnated into another world after hearing that he doesn't remember anything about last night at all, which makes sense to her since she's the one that made him pass out in the first place. As such, the two try to navigate back to last night to figure out what happened to no avail. So Bro comes to the conclusion that if something actually happened, then they would have known by now because things would be sticky and smelly everywhere like my farts. However, reality quickly came crashing down on these two stuck on Delulu land upon finding a small open wrapper on the floor meant to fend off unwanted accidents like our boy Hambiel. And after taking a closer look, the two could not find the product inside, which meant that they most have likely used it already. Of course, Jisoo is now stuck in absolute denial, refusing to believe the scenario she could be in where she wasted not only her first kiss, but also her first rice cake, destroying on a weakling like Hambiel. As such, she starts believing the alternate reality where the wrapper was just holding some vitamins, but it clearly says it was a protective wrapper to stop Mini-Me, so she tries to forget about it by remembering that she's still invisible, creating the need to cover up as it was her override to forget her embarrassment. Unfortunately for the two, upon Jisoo picking up the closest blanket to hide from the cold air brushing along the top of her pointy pyramids, she makes a remark about how wet the blanket is, and to make matters worse, Ro began smelling something eerily familiar to him. It then finally dawned on him that the reason why it seems so familiar to him is because it's the same smell akin to the liquid he makes every night using his cheesy hot dog machine when no one is around, making our boy come to the conclusion that something might have actually happened between them last night. So between the wet blanket, the sussy smell of familiarity, and the fact that they have an open wrapper with a product missing, Jisoo's heart sank because neither of them can even remember what transpired the night before. But as she continues to be quiet to make sense of everything, our boy interrupts her peace and tries to ask her if they are just better off forgetting everything that happened, making Jisoo furiously turn to him to flash him the fiery death glare of a red head. After staring down his soul for a whole minute without blinking, Jisoo makes up her mind and causes the sussy turntables to turn, where she asks him if they should just do it for real to make it count. She then explains that since they probably for sure shared their 1-versus-1 duel last night, then they might as well make it memorable since there's no turning back now. However, Hambiel says no like an absolute alpha skibidi rizzler, making up the excuse that it's probably best to forget since it was a mistake, but Jisoo does not give in, so she tries her best to convince him to go on with rice cake destroying as it's their first time anyways, making them better off once they are experienced Virgos rather than not.